Hi everybody, welcome back to the PTC podcast again. I'm here today with Oran Kelly. O'Kelly or Kelly?
O'Kelly.
Yeah, Oran O'Kelly from... You're from Dublin or County Dublin?
From Dublin, but a bit confused.
Yeah.
Born and raised here.
Oh yeah?
And grew up here till I was 12 and then shipped back home to school and then came back out here in 2020. So home away from home.
And where were you in school?
In Kildare, in Clongaswood College.
Oh yeah? When did you finish?
2012.
2012, okay. So
No SCT that year.
no cup that year. I'm 10 years on you. No
Okay.
left hair and you're in 03. So I don't know anybody. Rob Carney's generation was the last generation I was paying attention to. But yeah, good stuff. So you survived Clongowes anyway.
Just about,
Yeah.
for better or for worse.
So you moved back 2020. So what, you did 8 years after school?
Yeah. Bit of messing around, a couple of years in the States.
Oh yeah?
A couple of years back in Europe, and then built and sold the business just before COVID, and that landed me out here.
Cool. What was the business?
It was called Exemplar Car Concierge, like a service at the airport, like drop and fly, looking after luxurious cars, and then opened it up to car detailing, car maintenance,
Wow.
car repair, and built and scaled it just in a year and a half with 8 employees.
Wow.
But like complete. Some really good months, some really bad months.
Yeah.
So massive learning curve, but wanted nothing really to do with the business.
Really?
It's
Yeah.
kind of an idea that got legs way too quickly and rapidly expanded, and
Really?
just trying to get a grasp and a handle on it was incredibly difficult, and on like a complete shoelace budget.
That's amazing. It was in the States?
So that was in Dublin.
Okay.
In Dublin, yeah.
Luxury cars in Dublin.
Yeah, so luxury car parking and concierge service.
Okay.
So you drive up to the airport in your nice fancy car.
Yeah.
Instead of parking it or throwing it into one of the long-term car parks.
Yeah.
We had one of our guys there, which is usually me for the first 6 months,
Wow.
grabbing your keys, then rented a storage facility, parked your car, looked after it, safe, secure car park.
What gave you the idea to do that, or the motivation to do that?
I saw it a lot in the States,
Yeah.
and then saw it a good bit in Europe, but it was never at Dublin Airport. So I thought there was a bit of a gap, bit of an opportunity, and then had a friend that was between jobs, so just grabbed him, did a little proof of concept, and then after like a few weeks it just blew up. Like,
Really,
couldn't
yeah?
really control it.
That's a tough cross to bear. a booming, successful business.
When it's making profit, but as you very well know as well, sometimes trying to get that sweet spot, get that balance is more challenging than getting a good grasp on what's actually going on.
So, because that's interesting. Have you always been in the motor car world?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, completely out of my depths in so many different.
What did you study in
areas.
university?
So did an undergrad in psychology,
Okay.
and then did a master's in sports, exercise and performance psychology,
Right.
and then did 4 years of training to become a performance psychologist.
And then you're parking cars at the airport.
Yeah.
Well,
I was actually studying the master's at the same time. So I was doing a master's at night and doing the parking from 2018 to just January 2020.
Wow. The thing I like about those kinds of stories is like it's so far removed from what you were planning.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And then you just went, you know what? Let's just see if this works. Because it's really hard to get a business from an idea to a thing, and then it just gets insurmountably more difficult the more it grows.
Hugely, yeah.
The thing is, you just get more skills and more tools, and you get more like experience. But the difficulty level just keeps going up as your business is growing. So, 18 months, you'd had enough.
Yeah. I was actually looking at trying to sell it for about 6 months and had the idea of coming back out here. I knew I was finishing my master's and I knew that's what I was passionate and interested in. And then I kind of had this wild idea that had turned into a bit of a success, but was also sort of a double-edged sword. I was thinking, how scalable is this? Is there a long-term career in this? Is this really for me? But it sounds like a nice exotic business on the outside, but the reality of it is like 24/7, 365 days a year, cars getting damaged, keys going lost, losing cars, people booking the wrong day, calling you at 2-3 a.m. in the morning saying like, I'm here, where's my car? And they booked it in for the next day. Incredibly challenging dealing with people. Egos and personality, hiring, firing, that whole realm of things.
That's it, man. Yeah, and you did it in a year.
Yeah, just over a year, yeah.
So you went from just you to 18, or you and your mate, your business partner, to 8 employees.
Yeah.
Fair play, bud. That's good. That's like you've walked the walk, now at least. Yeah, because we set up the company out of necessity, rather than out of like the idea of a little bit of market research, spotting a gap. We didn't spot a gap. We're in the fitness industry. It's the one of the most bottom line, low bar of entry industries.
Competitive, yeah.
It's definitely competitive. I mean, I believe every industry is competitive. You know, that's why people are paid so much money in certain jobs, because it's a competitive position. But the thing about the fitness industry is that it's got such a low bar of entry. Yeah. So pretty much anybody in a year can be now in the industry going, okay, let's go, and you are in competition with them. But we set it up because we had to, and then it was a case, all right, well, now we have this, I have to get paid. Yeah. And I have to get paid in 6 months' time. So either we quit and we go home, or we go do all these other things. And the only thing we definitely knew, me and the guys, was that we just wanted to work for ourselves finally. We didn't want people to, because we'd had a few bad experiences with a previous couple of jobs. But anyway, sports psychology was your master's.
Yeah. So did that down in Limerick, sports, exercise and performance psychology. So the topic and subject originally started off as sport, and then a lot of the research ended up coming from the US military. Okay. So like they're actually the biggest funder of sports psychology. Interesting. Because they take all that research and information and then put it into practice for combat situation. So it's kind of evolved now into performance psychology. So performance in a sporting discipline, in a performance discipline like the theater, acting, musical performance, the military, so combat, defense, and then the corporate sector as well.
I mean, and it's performance psychology, right? So it's performance whatever in your discipline. Some disciplines are sports, some disciplines are military, some disciplines are business.
Yeah, and there's a huge amount of crossover. A lot of times the same science that works. If you're looking at like building resilience in a military combat team, to building resilience in a football team, to building resilience in another team, just changing the context. Yeah. Sometimes, or more often than not, does work. So it is quite transferable once you change the environment and the factors and everything else associated with it.
And are you doing that as a day job here?
Yeah, so that's full-time work for myself.
Oh yeah, cool.
Just contract for the last 4 and a bit years. Usually with football teams, sports teams, few gigs in Saudi, back and forth. But my main focus for the last 2 or 3 years has probably been on motorsport. Yeah. So working with motorsport clients, that's where my passion and interest is, and how to go at doing that at an elite level as well. So that's where kind of that bled into, and worked with teams at the sort of pinnacles of different disciplines in motorsport, and working with athletes, and found it really rewarding and really interesting at the same time. Yeah,
so because this is where I mean, we met once a couple of years ago, but since following you on Instagram, I've seen exactly what you're getting up to, and that's why I wanted to have a chat with you, was because you're doing a lot of motocross. Yeah. And you're not just doing it like up and down ramps, you're doing it across the Dakar desert, or the Dakar rally. So did you get into that through the psychology route?
So I probably did arse ways, or the other way around, where most people kind of compete at an athletic event or have a history or career as an athlete, and then get into some sort of sports science or some sort of sports medicine discipline, and then go back and educate and work with athletes. But I was in an unusual situation where I did the education and then thought, okay, I'm probably still young enough to make a good go at this, so went all in on that. But it set things up with selling that business and having the time, flexibility and freedom to do the training that was required for it. And then looked at it very much through like a sports science lens. And so it was looking at where the biggest opportunities for growth or the biggest opportunities for development. Like I didn't have the skill that a lot of some of the top elite guys have, because that's like some of them 2 decades or even more
they've been riding
of skill acquisition, of talent, of cultivating. So I looked at it through that lens, and looked at where the biggest opportunities were from fitness, from strength and conditioning, from endurance training, and went in it from that angle. So there's like still a big gap from probably skill or talent that hasn't been developed over the last, say, 15 years. But I kind of ticked the boxes and looked at how I can actually train through a sports science lens to the best of my ability. So I got really lucky and fell into it through the networking work of working with the Tour de France cycling coach, and he works with the top 5 guys in Dakar Rally. So that really gave me like nearly the cheat codes, if you will, to the endurance side of it.
Wow. So you, how long have you been doing the motocross?
So I actually only picked it up again in 2020. So I hadn't done it till grew up racing, or grew up here and did a bit of racing with my brothers. It was 4 of us, or 5 of us, 4 brothers, so 5 boys, and super competitive childhood, growing up with them. One year older.
Where are you in the line?
Second eldest.
Okay. Yeah. So you got a bit of beef on the other boys anyway.
Yeah, big time. And then Connor is a year older than me, Tiernan's a year younger than me, so like it was a very self-policing parenting style, where like if one of us messed up, we were all in trouble. So we were constantly on top of each other and leading.
So you all did a bit of motocross as kids?
All did a bit of motocross growing up, and
Yeah.
packed that in when we were shipped back to school in Ireland. And to be honest, Dakar was like a wild dream of mine when I was probably
That's cool.
9, 10, 11.
Yeah, yeah.
And I sort of went back and cracked that open and,
Yeah.
and thought, I'm here, I'm still young enough. Dakar used to be in Europe to Africa and then moved to South America, and then in 2019 moved to Saudi. So
Okay.
having the kind of roots that I did here and it being back in Saudi, or being in Saudi now, I thought like some stars are beginning to align here. It's a good opportunity to try and make a push for it and dig up that childhood dream and try and make a good run at it. But it was like at least a 3.5, 4-year project that I set out to go and achieve it, and then did as much research and as much work as I could, trying to understand it, trying to calculate it, trying to reverse engineer a route to a successful position or a successful setup to make it happen.
So do you want to just explain what the Dakar Rally is? Where does the word Dakar come from? Is
So-
that the original desert?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
it is, right.
Dakar is a town in Senegal, in Africa, and it used to be called the Paris Dakar Rally.
Right.
So from Paris in France to Dakar in Senegal. I think it started in the 1970s as some wild adventure. Got on a motorbike and thought, I'm going to ride from Paris all the way to Senegal or whenever I stop. And over the years, it's like enormously developed. There was 1 year it went from Paris to Cape Town. 1 year it went from Paris to Cairo. Just all around Africa, but like picking the most difficult, dangerous terrain they can possibly find. Barely any of it's on the road. It's all off road.
Right.
And then it moved to South America in 2008, and then it moved to Saudi in 2019. So it's been there for 4 years now.
And you're on a motorbike with serious horsepower. What's the CC of it?
Yeah. So it's 450 cc, but the bike is a lot more similar to a Formula One car than what you'd find regularly people riding in the desert here. So it's kind of, to give some stats on it, it's like 9,000 kilometers. So it's the same distance as Dublin or London for other people to Cape Town in a straight line.
Jesus.
And you're doing that over 2 weeks. And in terms of, if you're looking at the data or the science, it's between 5,000 or 6,000 to 9,000 calories burnt per day. So it's an enormously tiring and physically enduring event.
For 9 days, you said?
For 14 days.
Oh, shit.
So there's a day break in the middle where you're really doing maintenance on the bike.
Yeah.
But the bikes that we use are like Formula One cars, all carbon fiber, all titanium. They're very, very purpose built for the task on hand.
Yeah.
And we race those bikes at up to 160 kilometers an hour. And when you're riding off road, blind and navigating as well. So traditionally in rally racing as a discipline, in the cars, you'll drive, I'll co-drive, and that means I navigate. So you're reading the script, which isn't like a GPS navigation you get on Google Maps or a Garmin. It's very much just arrows, distances that you've traveled, and direction and bearing headings. So you have like a kilometer 423, take a left turn at 126 degrees. So you're on the bike solo reading this as a scroll that's in the dashboard, looking down, trying to calculate the distance, trying to calculate the speed. And you're doing this on 160 kilometers an hour. It used to be 200, but they brought the top speed down just due to accidents and fatalities. So you're processing all that. So if you think about that, and some of the days are 900 kilometers. So like, I think the longest day I was on the bike this year was 18 hours. So like 18 hours, complete solidarity, having a focus, the cognitive fatigue kicks in.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Brain endurance training. Like I sort of reverse engineered a lot of the literature and science and took that into my own training as a practice, as a practitioner and athlete, and built what I felt like was quite a successful program with it. Like from the fitness and the cardio side, working with the Tour de France coach, actually made that quite easy. And I was beating a lot of guys that were much quicker than me, or had a much higher ability to ride a bike, technically quicker, more efficiently or more effectively. But 6-7 hours into the day, I was just catching up with these guys that are just fatigued or had ran out of steam completely because of that largely zone 2 boring training that was money in the bank then over the 2.5 years that I'd been working with him before the event.
So your heart rate is in a zone 2 level, yeah?
No. Sorry, that's just the training for it.
Okay.
So the heart rate spikes throughout the day. So you'll get some sections where it might be 100 kilometers where you're just riding flat out holding on, but your average heart rate's probably maybe 120 to 130, 140 depending on it. And then you go through sections where it will like be on the rev limiter for 30, 40 minutes, where you're going through like a super technical section where you're going up like basically a dried out waterfall or down waddies, or riding up stuff like you couldn't climb up unless you had like proper mountain climbing gear, like really, really technical elements. And
So
then
the bike has to do it all then, eh? Like the bike's not just smash this 900 set of sand dunes.
No, not at all. The bike's designed to take on anything, and the Dakar Rally itself is like considered the ultimate test of off-road motorsport, from an engineering standpoint, from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint as well, because the bike and the terrain is designed to throw everything at you. Like they spent years before they brought the race to Saudi studying the climate, studying the environment, and finding like every single difficult crevice and dune and mountain and everything else. Like there was one area this year that was at the bottom of a volcano, and there was rocks like the size of these wall balls that were just like marbles. So we were riding them on the bike, and the front wheel was slipping and sliding. I must have come off the bike 20 something times.
Really, yeah?
And just slamming onto the
Did
ground.
you hurt yourself in these falls?
Oh yeah, like just battered and bruised, but like nothing more than like a serious rugby match.
Yeah.
But just having to get up and go day after
How
day
heavy's
after
the
day.
bike?
It's 180 kilos full.
Jesus.
Yeah. So the force as well when you're riding it, like they're like, okay, you're just sitting on a bike coupling a throttle, but like you're barely sitting down. I'd say 80% of the day you're in like a quarter squat position, squeezing the bike as hard as you can with your legs. You're wrestling it. You think the force is at play. If you're riding 160 kilometers an hour with a 180 kilo bike and you hit a bump or a knock or something else, you're very much like squeezing, holding on to as a jockey more than anything else from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, no man.
And I tracked it all this year because the coach was mad interested in it. And I think it was the smaller days were 5,000 and the larger days were 9,000 calories. So like fuel and nutrition are like, without that, you're
And how are you doing that?
wasting
How are you
your
getting that
time.
in?
Eating as much porridge in the morning. So like wake up call every morning was probably between 3 and 4:30 a.m. So you're getting up after sometimes good rest and recovery, sometimes not so good rest and recovery, depending on the sleep.
Yeah.
Because you're sleeping in a tent as well. It's not like hotel to hotel. The camps are set up in the middle of nowhere.
So on the day one, everyone's at the start line.
Yeah.
And you've got your target. You're following a GPS. Like, have you got GPS support, or are you literally going by like your paper map and your stars?
Literally going by a paper scroll.
Yeah.
That there's a device that you put the scroll into and it scrolls down. So nearly like an endless PDF.
Like an auto cue, like it's moving for you.
Yeah.
That's about it.
No, you move it with your finger. And then you've got a distance tracker on the top of your bike on your navigation tower.
Okay.
So that measures the distance off your front wheel.
Wow.
So you can get lost so easily as well.
Yeah.
Because if you head off at 60 degrees on the route and I head off at 62 degrees and 3 kilometers later, we're kilometers apart. Or at least a kilometer apart.
Yeah.
So if you're not picking it up correctly, and some terrain, there's a little bit of tracks and you can see where people have gone, but most of the terrain, if you're not on it and you're not calibrating and you're not constantly getting on top of it and constantly calibrating the distance, because it's all done off as the crow flies distance as well.
Okay.
So 3 kilometers at 60 degrees that way, as the crow flies, is not 3 kilometers if you've been going over terrain that's lumpy and bumpy like that.
Yeah.
The front wheel might read 3.2 or 3.4. So you're constantly doing these not mathematic, but somewhat maths equations.
No, definitely.
And
but
then
even when I go for a run, I'm trying to figure out my pace and how far I've gone and when I'm going to finish. Like that, after 90 minutes of a run in the mountains or on the beach, your brain is slowed down massively.
Hugely.
It's mad, and because it really gave me an understanding on how people can get lost in the mountains here in the UAE or in the desert. You don't stand a chance when you get brain fog because you're not the same person. This happens up at altitude as well. Your brain is in a different processing format.
Yeah.
It's not even speed. It's like it's just doing something else where you're like, hold on, if I keep running at this distance and that means I'm going to finish at 2. What the hell? Start again. Am I? And you just fucking what?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep running.
Oh, you're going there every day. Like every couple of hours, you're in these processes. And like if you look at it from like a scientific process, reaction time slowing down, concentration slowing down. You're thinking about some fight you might have had with your missus 2 or 3 weeks ago, or this or that, or thinking, who's that person I haven't seen in a while? And then suddenly your front wheel hits a rock when you're going 100 plus, 140, 150 kilometers an hour, and you nearly lose the whole thing. And if you come off at that speed, like it can be game over. Like there was 2 fatalities at it this year.
Brutal. It sounds terrifying. Who were they? Competitors, obviously.
Yeah. And it happens towards the end of the days when that fatigue kicks in, concentration's going. But even trying to deal with that, like one of them was on the second day, trying to deal with that.
Yeah.
Psychologically.
Did you find out when that happens? You find out like end of that day or?
Yeah. Like officially, unofficially, word spread throughout.
So you got a radio?
No. You're completely left alone with your thoughts.
So they're just hoping you get it right.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a GPS like to?
There's a GPS that tracks you, but not an open face one. Nothing you can see.
Yeah, just HQ knows where you're going in case you get lost.
To be fair, the organization over the last 2 or 3 decades has put in enormous steps to make it so much safer. If you've an accident and I find you and you're in a bad condition, which happens, like you find other competitors the whole time, you can press a button and the helicopter's there within 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And like helicopter setup as a helivac, with full medical staff and everything else. So like they have the best of the best there. So it is like doing something very dangerously, probably as safe as it can be done.
Yeah, yeah. And so then you take off, you got your 900 kilometers distance. Is there 900 kilometers in Saudi? Like you're not just going back and forth?
No, you're going through like loops and up and down.
Yeah.
900 kilometers was the longest day. The average days are probably 400 to 500, but you're into adventure, endurance events. Yeah. If I tell you a 10K run is a 10K run on flat, consistent surface, a 10K run with elevation could be anything.
Wow.
So a 400 kilometer day could be worse than a 900 kilometer day, depending on the terrain and the elevation and the up and down. And if it's rocks like marbles or you're riding up waterfalls, it's something completely different and challenging.
And where is this? East Saudi?
All the way. So we went the whole way. We started in Alula, then we went down to Jeddah, and then we came the whole way here to the border of the empty quarter, where Liwa was, and then the whole way back.
Wow.
But through different terrains the whole time.
How did you prepare for that?
There's a huge racing scene here for it.
Right.
And throughout the Middle East, UAE, Qatar, Saudi, it's incredibly well supported and incredibly well organized. Like there's a huge scene for it here. Like almost every weekend from now till, I'd say, April or May, there's some race on somewhere that you can go, you can attend.
In the UAE, in the
UAE, Qatar,
in the desert, in the sand dunes.
Last weekend I was in Qatar, did like a 36-hour round trip.
Wow. Round trip. I thought you were going to say
no, not 36-hour race.
36-hour biking.
It was like only a 2-hour race, but we left here Friday morning last week, and we were back on Saturday evening at 6 p.m. So it was like bang on 36 hours, and we did a 2-hour race and then drove the whole way back.
Man, that sounds
sounds
like an epic lifestyle. And you bring the bike with you?
Bring the bike with us, yeah.
You fly it out?
No, drive, yeah.
So you got like a whole support crew, van, truck?
Setup, yeah.
Are they waiting for you at your nighttime checkpoints or during the actual Dakar rally?
So there's 2 different categories in Dakar. You can do it supported or you can do it unsupported.
Wow. They
don't let you do it unsupported the first year you're there.
Yeah.
So I went supported with 2 other team members and then 2 other mechanics.
So okay, we'll come back to that. But unsupported are you carrying your own tent?
No. They carry your tent and they carry a small box, like just a little bit lower than this, but the same footprint, just full of spare parts.
For the bike.
Yeah, but like, and then you're hugely conservative over what you're damaging, what you're repairing, what you're fixing.
Yeah.
Like the stuff I went through, like I was going through big, thick carbon fiber skid plates, titanium wheel sets.
What's a skin plate?
So like the bottom of the bike to protect the engine is a big, thick piece of carbon fiber, and I went through 3 of them throughout the week, and they're like designed to be bulletproof, if you will.
How thick are they?
I don't know, probably like 15 or 20 mm.
Wow.
Yeah, so like thick carbon fiber.
Just for friction and damage.
Just by banging off rocks, jumping, landing, bottoming out. It's a constant just abrasion from it.
Because as much as it's unsupported, you have whatever your support at the destination, you're still unsupported on your 800, 400, 500, 600 kilometers.
You're completely on your own, and no comms, no calls back to anything. Like I had a few different technical problems.
Yeah.
So like you really have to study and learn the bike inside out.
Wow.
Just troubleshoot it. Go through top to bottom, thinking, okay, this is a fuel issue. Okay, it's an electrical issue. Trying to understand it. Trying to understand. Okay, how can I isolate this problem? Where's what could be the factors involved with it? So like reverse engineering what the issue or the symptom is.
And did you notice when you were a kid? Like were you under the bikes when you were younger? No.
Doing a little bit of racing growing up here, but none of that technical or mechanical understanding or knowledge.
So you started all that after 2020?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a pretty steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Are you? Is that part of the community here? Like, is there like skilled people here who can talk you through it, and you got experts, and you got like
through guys that I race with, and some of the guys I race with on my team like pass an enormous amount of knowledge on, but like you really have to be, it's like self-driven learning, like a lot of YouTube, a lot of trial and error.
So it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
So then that's the sort of you were supported, so what did you have at the camps or at the checkpoints?
So the camps are set up, it's called bivouac, which I think is camp in French or something. I should have probably studied that or learned.
It's like just solo little tents.
Yeah, just solo little decathlon tents, and like sleep, like you know better than me. Rest and recovery for performance is like more important than nutrition, more important than psychology, more important than anything else.
Yeah,
we were sleeping in what only I can imagine as like a battle zone or nearly like a war zone, because sometimes you come back at 9-10 p.m. you're trying to get as much food back into you, trying to get whatever injuries you have maybe sorted out with the physio or someone else there, and then you're sleeping, and the temperature in Saudi, like everyone, and I thought naively as well, even living here, like it doesn't get that cold in Saudi. Some of the nights were -5.
What time of year were you?
So it was in January. So
-5.
But some in the areas like in the northern mountains near Jordan, it was mega cold. Like we were getting up and frost was on the tents. And then sometimes you only have 4 or 5 hours to sleep before you have to get up and do it all again. And then the noise as well, like the car engines and bike engines are going all night. Because if you come back and you're racing a car, your engineers and your mechanics.
Oh, there's cars rolling along as well in the same places.
On the same track, yeah. And they catch you during the day. And there's big trucks as well, which like are not like trucks you've seen before, with big like 50-inch tires that race at 200 kilometers an hour.
So there's bikes, cars, and trucks.
Yeah,
and they're all just following the same route, the same.
Yes, some of the routes split sometimes. They send some of the bikes into more technical stuff that some of the cars and trucks can't do, but they all set off. So it's set off in increments of it starts with 3 minutes and then it goes down to 1 minute. So a lot of times on the longer days, the cars and trucks catch you, and like that's mega scary when you're going 160 and a truck's that like is 3 or 4 meters high passes you at 200 with like a few feet to spare beside you.
Really? Yeah. And you can hear it coming.
Oh, you can hear it coming. Yeah, like you wear earplugs just to protect your hearing, but like still the engine on the noise of the bike you can hear, and the noise of the trucks are like insane.
So you're dreaming of this since you were a kid, and like the opportunity slowly begins to present itself. At what point do you go, all right, well, I've been doing this for 3 years or 2 years, let me just do this? Like, how do you have the balls to do that?
Yeah, balls or stupidity or naiveness, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I actually qualified to do it a year before, but I didn't have the budget together. The training and preparation and the skill acquisition and the sports science was nearly the easy part in a way. The most difficult part was the business end of it. Selling sponsorship, learning about motorsport sponsorship. I nearly like studied that intensely for 3 months, read any book I could on sports sponsorship, motorsport sponsorship, tried to understand that inside out, and then tried to achieve a budget of 150,000 euro, so 600,000 dirhams is what I needed to do it. So by no means a small feat.
Yeah.
And I set myself out just setting that as a target, like this, that just needs to be done, and tried so many different things. I ran 2 events in Ireland, one with Charlie Boorman, you might have heard of him. Yeah. The Adventure.
Yeah, he did a long way around and down.
Exactly, yeah. So I thought through different books and developing different strategies, I need to get in under someone like that to raise a profile, raise awareness.
Yeah, cool.
Learned all about media, learned all about PR.
Nice.
And it's quite interesting. I found like 30 sports and motoring journalists in Ireland, approached all them, probably borderline harassing them at one point.
You have to, man. Yeah.
Trying to get interest, and as soon as Charlie got behind it and got an introduction to a friend of a friend into Charlie, like they were all over it. I'm mad keen. But in terms of sponsorship, to give you stats or ideas or numbers from a commercial side, I managed to partner with 18 sponsors and approached 1,500.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so about a 50-50 split here in the Emirates and back home in Ireland. So what's that? Probably like just over 2%.
It's a serious amount of rejection, but 2% could be like, what's that? 2 in 50.
Yeah.
You know, or 1 in 50 is 2%.
Yeah.
You're talking 1,400 and something told you to do one or ignored you.
Yeah.
That's hardcore, man.
So it needs to be done. But I just took that sort of approach and thought, like, I need to make this happen. I really want to do this and need to reverse engineer that side of it. But that was way more taxing and way more time consuming than the actual training for the event itself.
Yeah.
because you get to a stage where if you compete high enough at an elite level, that comes to you.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in that
You
position.
got to go from 0 to 1 though first, eh?
Exactly, yeah. And the momentum's there. Like I learned all about PR, media, deliverables. I think from the response from the sponsors.
We should do a podcast on just that at some point.
Yeah, huge, and such an interesting industry. Like my perception of what sports sponsorship was, and after like learning a bit, studying a little bit, to what it is now and to what I've experienced now is like chalk and cheese difference. I was so naive about the whole thing.
What did you think?
I thought I was just selling sticker space.
Right.
Like I was going to put, okay, you want to put TPC here on my bike?
Yeah.
That's going to be 10 grand.
Yeah.
But like sponsors aren't even interested in that. It's about added value. It's about the story. It's about the narrative. It's about bringing the brand in. It's about deliverables as well with this world of social media, content, audience, working with the PR company to try to get as much exposure as possible. Like it's just like that was a full-time job in itself. Like I nearly should have probably tried to find someone and hire them or crack some deals for them to manage that.
Yeah, fair play. So did you figure out a story? Did you like, what was your story?
It depends what sponsor you were, but
yeah,
just trying to deliver as much value as possible to them. Obviously being Irish is it's a niche. We're very lucky. Yeah. Nobody in Ireland had done it in 15 years.
Wow.
So what I actually found, don't know if it says or not, but nobody gave a shit about Oran O'Kelly going to Dakar. But Oran O'Kelly representing Ireland for the first time in 15 years at the Dakar rally.
Yeah.
Everyone got behind. Everyone was mad interested in. And then using that as a brand and using nationality, using identity, tapping into people's feelings, emotions, and getting behind it. That I wasn't someone who'd been doing this for the last 20 years either and had reached this point. I had someone who'd gone from basically zero to maybe hero, if you would, qualifying for this, doing it all on my own. I had no media or social media momentum built because, to be honest, I just thought a little bit of a waste of time. Yeah. Didn't really see much value in it. But after studying and learning about sports sponsorship and marketing, like you can probably be a very average athlete and have like killer social media and be much more successful.
You hear that, Destiny? There's hope for us. You can be average.
Than anything else. Because there's guys at the elite level, like the pinnacle of the sport, and their social media has more to be expanded on or could be better. And there's guys a little bit lower that are just killing it, putting out content. And this day and age, it's quick, consumable content.
I reckon that's probably the same in most industries. It's definitely the fitness industry. There's the super science sporty posts, the super nerdy posts. I have tried them, then pain and the injury realm, and they just fall flat. Yeah. And then you post a photograph with no top on, and it's twice the amount of likes. It's like, come on, damn it. There's some really smart people out there with some really good shit to share. Yeah. It's just not glamorous enough.
No.
To get the engagement.
It's not, I think. It's not the way people are wired nowadays.
Yeah, so that's it. You got to crack that. You got to figure, like, I'm not the best at it, but I don't have any real attachment to my social media, so I don't get upset or bothered if something doesn't go well or go bad. You know, it's just like, it's a game. It's kind of rigged with rules. We don't really know what they are because it is
constantly changing and dynamic and
algorithm shit. Like, it'd be nice to know what the algorithm, at least some level of structure other than just engagement. But whatever, you have to just be in it. Like it's where everyone's attention is.
100%. Yeah.
I have loads of friends who are setting up mini businesses and they're setting up profiles and they're trying to do their thing. And it's like, look, you might hate it and you're probably right for everything you're feeling about hating it. Yeah. But it's where everyone's attention is. Yeah. So if you don't want to live in a bubble, if you do want to help people and affect people and communicate to people, you need to turn up the intensity on your social media game.
Big time, yeah.
It's not easy though, because you put yourself forward. You've got to be a bit vulnerable. You know, there is. I don't know why I say this loads. I don't know why the like button exists. I don't know why the comment button exists. Yeah, it's so unnecessary. It's killer.
Yeah, and the hate you can get from it as well.
Well, if you're getting hate, you're doing something right.
You're upsetting someone.
Yeah, but for every one person who pipes up on a comment or whatever that's something negative, I'm actually happy with that, because that shows, because I believe for every one person there's 9 really nice people, right? But then for every one asshole, for every one asshole that actually goes to the effort of posting something on your thing, there's 10 other assholes who saw that and stayed silent.
Yeah.
For every one of those silent 10 assholes, there's 10 or 20 people who weren't such an asshole, like thinking nice things. So if that one guy breaks through, it means there was 10 assholes, which means there was 100 other people. I'm like, let me hear it.
Yeah.
Bring it. Because most people are nice. They're just nice and quiet. And they're getting on with their day. So turn that hate into a little bit of like, so fucking what?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's probably a Chris Williamson quote, or he's probably quoting it from someone else, but like, you'll very rarely, I've never in my life been criticized or hated on by someone who's doing more than me, or someone who's achieving more, or someone who's even trying at any extent at anything, putting themselves in a comfortable position where they're vulnerable, where they're setting themselves up for failure publicly. And that was a huge psychological thing with this as well. Like, when I started telling people I was doing it, I was like, I actually have to do this now.
Yeah.
And statistically, 43% of people finish.
Okay.
And I don't know what percentage of people think about going or make a plan to go and don't even get to go.
Yeah.
So just getting to the start line was huge.
Yeah.
After telling everyone, and such an enormous effort. But then getting to the finish line as well was like I think the 7 Irish medals for it ever. And the last was more than 15 years ago.
And medals is top 3, or it's like a finishing
medals
medal?
is finish.
Wow.
Finishing medals, yeah. So the finish rate this year was 43%.
Yeah.
So less than 50% of people. 10% of people were gone on the first day. Just rattling experience. Like, just to think the level of preparation and years that go into it to be gone on the first day.
It's so ballsy, man, just to even think about doing that. Like, who's giving you hate for that? Was anybody like chirping up? Without naming names, you haters.
Some stuff on social media, but like you
got
just,
it,
you got it. Oh yeah, for sure. You got to take it with your stride and just.
That's so unique, such a unique thing to do. Who's hating
Isn't
on that?
it?
Like,
yeah, and it's never people like with a legit account or any accountability. It's just these keyboard warriors with burner accounts and interested in it. But do you know what I mean? What are they doing?
Yeah, well, that's it.
Not losing any sleep over it.
It's such a waste of time as well for those people. Like, just spend that time reading a book. Stop reading Instagram if you're going to be a hater.
Yeah.
So how does all this fit in with your psychology then? Like, where do you feel that benefited your... Because 900 kilometers, 500 kilometers, that's a massive mental toll.
Yeah.
So, like, you've got your physical prep where you got to get fit, strong. You've got your nutritional thing where you need to figure out your calories and your burnage. But, like, are you planning it from a mental perspective as well to get through it?
Yeah, big time. Like, just from the nutrition side, I'll touch on a few things there you mentioned. From the nutrition side, like, I lost just over 10 kilos.
Wow.
And was eating as much as I could, like, nearly force-feeding myself in the morning with just porridge and oats and bananas and honey, just trying to get as much carbs in as possible till I was, like, literally about to get sick.
Yeah.
And then you ride to the start line, which sometimes can be 30 minutes or sometimes it can be 2 hours to get to the start.
Really? 2 hours before you even go?
There was one day where we had to ride 500 kilometers to the start line and then race 200 kilometers. So it's designed nearly to, like, wear you down. Like, if I get in the car now and I have snacks, AC, comfort, cruise control, and you were to drive 500 kilometers, like, we'd be a bit wrecked by the time we got there.
Yeah.
To do it on the bike and then to be, like, all in, flat out for 200 kilometers of really technical section. It's designed to arrive there, like, and your brain is fatigued.
And what's the day temperature like in the desert?
You can get up to 45 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you got a helmet on and protective kit.
Helmet on, sweating. You wear, like, a lot of protective kit.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start going slow and there's no air, body temperature rises really quick.
Yeah, wow.
So you've got to manage all these factors into it. But just back to the psychology stuff, that probably, like, all starts around, or how I kind of got into it, starts around when I was 11 or 12 years old. I really, really struggled with my mental health and depression and anxiety and didn't think it was worth pushing on for a good while. Dropped out of school for 6 months and really struggled to manage, worked with different psychologists, different therapists, did a lot of CBT therapy, cognitive behavioural therapy, that really helped iron a lot of stuff out, and really struggled in school back in Ireland for a good few years with my mental health, yeah. And I honestly didn't know at the time. I felt, like, so guilty, thinking, like, I've such a good set of parents, such a good family, such a good opportunity, like, what was wrong with me? Like, not fully understanding it all. And to be honest, didn't think I was going to ever really amount to much. I just thought, like, this is something I'm stuck with now. Had developed the skills and tools to manage it, but not at a very, like, effective level. Like, struggled with different medications I was taking, tried different techniques, but, like, CBT was definitely one that clicked for me. Like, analysing thoughts, challenging thoughts, developing better thought patterns and recognition. And that's where probably the interest came from initially. And then when finished secondary school, didn't do great in the Leaving Cert. I'm not sure how many people do too well.
I didn't do well, yeah.
And didn't get any of the courses that I wanted to do either. But I was kind of interested in psychology, and then there was an option to do it at National College of Ireland at like very reduced points compared to anywhere else in Dublin or anywhere else in Ireland. And it was an interest, but like I didn't know where it was going to take me or where I was going to go. So I decided to study that. Found it mega interesting then as well. Probably like doing a lot of self-analysis or self-reflection upon it, which probably isn't the best motivation to choose a career. But got stuck into that then, and then realised as well, just had the awareness that I probably wasn't in a position to go on to develop the skill set or the qualifications to be a clinical psychologist, to work with people with maladaptive behaviour. But was super interested in sports and thought, okay, maybe try give the sports and performance psychology. So trying to, if you look at it, say, as like a scale, like 0 being someone at rock bottom, 10 being someone like in euphoria, nirvana, they're like everything in life is perfect. What sports and performance psychology does is help people get maybe from a 4 or 5 upwards, and then anything kind of below a 3 is more clinical, where you're dealing with serious maladaptive behavior. And that, as a psychologist, is like really important to be aware of where your skill set lies, what your ability lies. And then you refer it on to someone who's a clinical psychologist, or refer it on then, even a clinical psychologist refer it on to psychiatrists, where medication, things like that gets involved. So that's where probably my kind of initial beginnings with psychology and mental health and everything began. And there's probably a small bit of me in it as well that thought, after I'd managed to exit that business, thought like there's a chance to actually go and do something for myself at that age, to prove to myself that like, okay, you've actually gone, like when I was probably that 12, 13, I didn't think I was going to be able to like even have a career, let alone start my own business, sell a business, and then go back and have this childhood passion or wild dream and go back and actually make it happen. So it was like, I don't know, a huge journey in that, in a way, to go back and prove to myself that, okay, you can actually make something of yourself. Like I just wish I could go back and tell myself back then, like, that you can make this happen, that these opportunities are going to be out there.
Yeah, you never know. That time travel shit, we may have thrown you off course, you know. You may have been like, all right, well, I don't have to do anything. It's just going to come to me. Big old man Oran tell me in my dreams. You know, I'll be fine. I don't know when, but it's going to come, and then nothing happens.
For sure, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, that's for me and to the character I have today, and I think helped me understand compassion with people and understanding. And just because someone's acting like a bit of a dick or an ass, 9 times out of 10, there's a lot more to it. They're suffering with something. They're not dealing with something. What we experience as a human interaction with someone in the car park that's being aggressive, there's a lot more to that often, and that they're just venting that or putting on this mask or this boundary, that usually there is a lot of opportunity for them to understand themselves better, and for them to work with someone or seek the correct support and find peace with themselves, or find a lot happier lifestyle.
So do you find yourself with a lot of empathy for that? Like, do you see that, or do you find yourself just losing your shit 10 minutes later, like,
I'd like to say empathy, but not like everyone's human as well. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has their boundaries, everyone has their patience and limitations. Like, I like to try and think I am, but the reality of it is, well, if someone cuts you up outside here when you're parking, you're going to be sparked or a bit fueled.
Especially drivers in this place. So 11 or 12, that's quite a young age to go through that as well, do you know? Yeah.
A lot of it actually started from just putting myself under too much pressure to perform. Like, I think when I started secondary school, everyone else was worried about making the JCT Junior Cup team or Senior Cup team. I was like, no, I need to get 600 points. I need to go on. I need to do this. I need to do that.
Why do you think that was?
I'm not sure. Probably haven't really figured it out. But I think just wanting to really get the most out of myself, for the best out of myself, and just thought I could just turn the pressure up, and that was the answer to it. But that developed such negative and maladaptive behavior then that it was just completely counterproductive from it. But yeah, at such a young age, it's a bit unusual, and was like so embarrassed by it as well, thinking like, what are people going to think, and this and that, and probably develop good skills from that, like not being too concerned about what people think or other people's opinions at a younger age then, which stood to me. As a lot of people struggle with that. Like, people today struggle getting caught up with what too many other people think about them or other people's opinions.
It's interesting that you went like in the competitive nature, but in the academic side. You know, you didn't, because Clongowes, I'm sure they play hundreds of sports. You know, there's loads of opportunities. It's not like you're in a city school where, you know, the only way out of this is academia and
it's a result.
Like there's loads of sports. Like I remember when I was real young, in one of the years in primary school, I used to really stress that I hadn't written down the right homework correctly, and I would call one of my best friends on the house phone.
Yeah.
What's the homework? And he'd tell me, and like weeks and weeks, I was just bombarding their fan. What's the homework? And I had written it down, but I just had this in my head that it wasn't right.
Like second guessing, or
just getting nervous, like as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old. You know, that I was going to get in trouble if I didn't have the right homework. But then for me, a strange thing, I shouldn't laugh. When I was 12, a guy across the road from me in my neighborhood was 18, going through his leaving certs, which is like his A-levels or his high school leaving exams. Tragically, he took a shotgun and ended his own life, because of the stress of it. Yeah. And found he was 17, 18, and I found this out at like 10, 11, 12, maybe 12, and I was like, I am not putting myself under that much pressure. So all through my school, I was like, that leaving cert can go fuck itself. Like I'm just playing sport and blah blah blah. So that was always in the back of my mind, that when it came to exams, I was like, there's no way. Yeah. And that really affected me in a switch off way. Like I was like, forget it, because I'd been going through this little anxiety pattern about the homework. And I was like, Jesus, if he's getting anxiety to do that, forget it. Yeah,
it's not worth it.
So I quit my leaving cert when I was 12. I was like, I'm not.
So checked out.
Yeah, I checked out. I was like, I don't care. I'll figure it out. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not letting that happen to me. And I like finished with an average 345.
Yeah. I actually think I got the exact same. So
did you? Same as my sister as well. Thankfully, me and my sister got the same.
Consistency. Yeah. Look at us now.
That's it. Just running away from everything, still in Dubai, hiding out from the real super nerds who took all our jobs. But that's it. Like, I've been chatting to Destiny a lot about what to do in the future. She's gone through the college decision making stuff, and it's like just crack on. You'll figure it out, and it might not be anything near what you studied.
No. And just to go something, I think you can find a little bit of an interest in. Like I think for the most part, unless you want to be like not giving out huge advice here, but for the most part, unless you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, maybe an accountant, whatever you kind of study, if you enjoy it and like it, you'll take some learnings from it and adapt it somewhere else. And if college isn't for you as well, go out there, get out in the world, whether it's a trade, a business, or something else, and just get stuck in, apply yourself to something. Like I'm 30 now, and like I could tell you the roller coaster of careers I've had till I finally came around and realized, like, oh no, I can probably provide a lot more value in life to other people through being a psychologist than I can being a salesman, trying to do a business, trying to be a business owner, trying to be an entrepreneur. Like I just wasn't cut out for a lot of that stuff.
Well, what you'll find, and you've probably already realized this, is as a solo person working for yourself, you might call yourself a psychologist, but you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, you're a marketer, you've got to work the finance, you've got to work your legal, you've got to figure out your visa over here.
Hugely, yeah. Like
you're everything. People quit their corporate jobs to go work in the fitness industry because they want to help people. I'm like, that comes last. Unless you go
it's the cherry on top.
Unless you go work in fitness first, or a massive corporate gym where they have all the clients there and you're right there in front of them, and you're getting your human broth. Like I worked in the military and I worked in football in the UK, where the guys just all showed up. Do you know what I mean? I got to learn a craft. I got to perfect my technical skills as a rehab coach with pain and injuries and recovery and blah 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 blah. Because they were always there, and I'm like super busy. And I came over to Dubai, and it was like, right, now go find your own clients. Yeah. So thankfully, I'd already got years in the craft, but now it's like, holy shit, how do you get clients? Do you know?
Yeah, like 50% of it is doing your skill or your career, and then the other 50% is all those skills where the entrepreneurial skills, or business owner, or single business owner skills, where you've like got to market yourself, brand yourself, do admin, do accounting, get your trade license, get your visa sorted, get all these things sorted, which takes away from the offering of what you're trying to offer, but that's what to do it with.
It's actually the bit of it that kept me going, though. Was like, right, I don't really want to be training people in my 40s and 50s at 6 a.m. and at 7 p.m. So how do I kind of grow myself out of this little pocket of the industry? So the business was the obvious route to work for yourself and build a business, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of stuff that you don't know. Do you know what I mean? And looking back on it now, I was like, God, I wasted so much time, not for any other reason other than like, it just took me ages to figure this out. It took me ages to figure that out. And luckily, me and Chris are kind of helping each other. We're probably halving the time it's taken us to get to where we've got, just by two of us using two brains. But there's no fast or slow way. Like, you seem to have done a real nice job with the airport business.
But got lucky.
Yeah. But
do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you make a little bit of your own luck. You've got to be out there. You've got to try. You've got to figure it out. Like, we did it. There was another stat I had. Like, I did that on a shoelace budget. I had no budget for marketing, had no budget for social media, and I was literally harassing rugby players in Ireland because I was thinking, loads of people fly out to rugby matches. If I get one rugby player to post it on their Instagram, and I'll mention his name here because he actually got on and really was supportive of the business, but I messaged Jamie Heaslip, I think, like 11 or 12 times.
Right.
Ghosted me, ignoring me, ghosted me, ignoring me. And then when he finally read it and got traction, he pushed it hugely. The whole Irish rugby team was using us. Loads of other sports and athletes. I did a good bit of MMA back in the day as well. Did 2 fights, and we got all the MMA stars up and out of Ireland to push it and to do it. And then the business, and that was like, it actually that was I think the big spark and the factor in it. We got approached by different brands. We ended up doing like a brand partnership with VitHit. So they supplied all the drinks to us as well. So look good for them having all the Irish rugby players. Yeah. Doing the post that they agreed to for us about pushing the product in the business.
That's it. But like, I went to a Tony Robbins thing here a few years ago. He spent all day chatting to people and whatever. Forget it all. The only bit I remember was he said, if you don't have the resources, you need to be more resourceful. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, got it, fine. That's the only thing I remember from that whole day was those 2 sentences. And you just have to be. So like, what levers can I pull here? What buttons can I press? Right, let me just do it, because I don't have the budget to buy support to figure
that. And that was probably could have been the 10th strategy we tried.
Yeah, of course.
I remember harassing corporates as well and companies and being like, your travel allowance, use this instead.
Mate, that's it. That's the hustle. So, but that's not necessary. That takes it further and further away from luck and more like just dogged determination. Like, I'm not going to fail at this. I'm going to keep pushing on. I'm going to make this work. The way you can access people nowadays through DMs and tagging and it's totally different to when we started 2015 here. Instagram was like a thing, but I didn't have a work Instagram when we started the company. We had to build it all from zero, because I had a personal one where I was showing like me and my fucking walking through a park, in 2014 Instagram, what was that? No one was even using it. And then it just absolutely boomed, and now that's where you can contact people. And you can spam, people get spammed, and I get all that, but there's ways where if you have a good idea, if you just don't quit on it, if you just keep grinding it out.
Yeah, like a lot of these things I think you've discussed as well, like they're in no book, they're in no course online. They're only going to find them and figure them out by application of effort, reviewing, reflecting, changing a few degrees, heading on another application and going until something cracks, something works. And what worked for you and your fitness business here and was successful for you might not work for me if I set up another fitness business down the road, because it's a different time, it's a different context, we're in a different period.
Yeah, and you might also get lucky with the things that didn't work for us.
100%, yeah.
So what's happening next for you then? Like, where are you at now with you're going to continue obviously with you're in Qatar last week, but are you going to go for the next Dakar rally, or are you going to give it some time?
I'm going to give it some time and see, for 2 reasons. Number one, to focus more on the career, to get that up and running. It was handy having that flexible, could tone it up, tone it down while I was preparing, while I was training and everything else, but really trying to establish myself more in that career. Luckily, competing in that event, or competing at an elite level in off-road motorsport, has huge synergy with that career as well, builds a lot more credibility. There's a lot of people out there in the motorsport market and in other markets that are like weekend warrior mindset coaches or mental performance coaches, and it's actually so dangerous. Like, I'm sure you're aware, the biggest killer of males under 55 is suicide. For people to think that they can be qualified to give people advice, sometimes unsolicited advice, on how they should be behaving, how they should be thinking, how they should be doing everything else, it's just wild. Like, there is some really good stuff out there that people are putting out, but it's such a fine line between how you're telling the people to think, how you're telling people to behave, and announcing it uniformly to everyone, I just think is difficult and dangerous. So trying to change that up, and that's kind of one of the passions that I have, is working with, people that are sports exercise people, or people that have gone and studied something evidence-based and understand that just because they saw something on Instagram or just because they read something on a website doesn't mean that that's science, and doesn't give them the authority to push that out, to publish that. So that's kind of like a bit of a passion of mine now, is to try and push the performance psychology, but try and push a good narrative where people are understanding, okay, like this is what we could be doing, and this is how you can access help, and this is how you can access support. But it's just trying to do it as a fine line so that people understand, okay, these are the people that we need to go to, and then maybe listening to someone who's in the fitness industry and did a weekend crash course on
whatever, yeah,
resilience, or on depression, or if they're it's more the maladaptive behaviors. Like if someone's promoting good mindset techniques or good resilience behavior, there's probably no harm in that.
Yeah.
But it's the people that I feel brand themselves as these experts. And like, I know you've been in your industry a long time. I haven't been in this industry for 4.5, 5 years. I think to be an expert in something, like, you need to be doing it for at least 15, 20 years. Yeah. And just because you've been doing something for 15, 20 years does not make you an expert either. So I think just to be careful and try and raise more awareness that this is where you can go to if you need help, or this is where you can go to if you need performance enhancement, and just helping people understand that these are people that know what they're speaking about, that have some level of evidence-based training, whether it's nutrition, S&C, performance, whatever, and that those are the people you should be looking for to advise.
I think what you're circulating with that is people who have I think it's quite a male thing, people who have walked the walk, whether it's been in the career for 20 years, they've walked 20 years in that, and they've learned, they've met people, or whether they've overcome, going from 0 to 14 days in Dakar Rally. Now not only am I speaking to from a academically qualified, but I have kind of shown the world I'm able to do this. So, if that's what you're into, then we can have a proper chat. And I think it's a real male thing to want to see that level of like proof.
Yeah.
You can watch podcasts, listen to podcasts, you can look on Instagram and stuff and see the same advice over and over and over again, because everyone's trying to benefit the world. But when you see it from somebody where you're like, I don't really know what you've done to sort of be shouting that statement, and then you see the same statement from somebody who has done it, it's way more powerful.
Big time from it. And it's the same thing, like I invested time and money and tears into becoming a qualified European and UE qualified psychologist, like 7 years in total with undergrad, masters, UK training, and a lot of times, like, people need to look for people that have spent time or understand the need for, like, if you have a disease, say take cancer for example, are you going to go to someone who's beat cancer? Because what worked for them might not necessarily work for you. Or is it better to go to someone who's a doctor who specializes in learning cancer? Or taking a combination of the two, taking some learnings from people that have beat it, that understand, okay, from like an applied setting, they've walked the walk, they've been through the shoes, and then going to a doctor as well, and trying to find a combination of the two. Because often, if I prepared you now and we set a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan for you to go to Dakar, what worked for me at Dakar, I'm nearly guaranteed won't work for you. Because your personality is so different, your life experience is so different. You'll need different techniques, you'll need different training, you'll need different experience. For sure, there's something to learn for me as a participant in Dakar, but I would argue even more going to some of the science and some of the literature and some of the research, and then taking a combination of that too and putting it together is going to put you in the best position to be able to perform at it sustainably as well. Because like there's a lot of people and that push out, especially on social media, very maladaptive behaviors or strategies or techniques that they just heard from someone else in the gym or someone else there, which is just, I think, just really naive and dangerous. And not to try and sound too cynical about it, but there's just so much risk involved to it that a lot of people don't see on the surface level. But ultimately, like as I said before, like the biggest killer of males, I think females, or in general males and females under 30 is suicide, and males under 55 is suicide. And a lot of times those are people that are most vulnerable. Those are people that sometimes are looking for help and are most influenced by an Instagram post that's telling them to do whatever or do X. And
even just an image of something where it's like, there's that person doing something amazing that I'm not,
like take Goggins for example. If you were to follow him like gospel, word by word, day by day, everything else, you're probably going to end up injured. But at the same time, through a different lens or different perspective, if I'm heavily overweight, have no confidence, don't really have much of a social life, or really like suffering from this loneliness epidemic, if he motivates me to get up off my ass and go for a walk, he's won. Like he's benefited, added a positive element to his training and to everything else. So like there's two sides to it as well, but it's just the lens I'm looking at it, where I just see risk and danger, and trying to encourage people to understand where to look for help or where to look for support from.
Yeah, I think you're already ahead of a lot of people in that realm, because you have walked the walk. So like, whether it's your social media you're pushing, or whether it's your LinkedIn or whatever, it doesn't. The way people kind of refer word of mouth nowadays is they go to these social media platforms and they show, look, this is Oran O'Kelly. He helped me with all these things. So there's that kind of social valid proof off your mate. And then they go onto your page and they go, whoa, fucking hell, he's done, Jesus, all right. He's a bit above the rest, you know?
Yeah.
As opposed to, here's the freshly qualified sports psychologist who's, spreading the same cookie cutter advice, which is good advice, safe advice, whatever. But it's just like, this is not impacting me the same way as seeing what somebody has done.
Yeah.
And that could be just be me. Maybe, I don't know. It could be what affects me. But I think it's a male thing where you want to see, because let's say you're a corporate guy.
Yeah.
You've spent 15, 20 years working your way up.
Mm-hmm.
You go into a seminar from a guy who's talking to you. You want to know that this guy is at least an expert in what he's talking about, not just a book. Because we can all get book smart now. We can all listen to David Goggins' podcast and regurgitate it and say all the same stuff. But does he, like, what has he done? Like, not just what he's saying, but what is he doing? What has he achieved? Okay, because that's the stuff you can't fake.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you can fake the knowledge from a book, but you can learn it and recite it, and you can, I know you said that things. I say, here's your 5 strategies for that.
Yeah.
It's like, but if it's coming from somebody who's spent 2 weeks by himself in a desert, dying of dehydration slowly, and on a life-threatening endeavour where there's 2 fatalities. Cars, people have seen the Dakar rally, and all you ever see is the crashes. All you ever see is the wipeouts. And
unfortunately, that's the highlight reel.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's loads about it I didn't know. That's why I wanted to have a chat. It's like, what is all this?
And honestly, 90% of people I meet or chat to are just like, it's just like you're just sitting in a car or sitting on the bike pulling your throttle. I'm just like,
No, it can't be. Even if you spend 10 seconds reading the caption below, you're going to see something where it's like, wait, what? So where can people get in touch with you anyway, to find out more and listen to you?
Probably Instagram is probably the easiest one. That's very like racing focused or competitor focused. I'm trying to get the LinkedIn and everything else and a website up and running as well, because a lot of the work I've been doing is just like very poorly on my part has just been from referrals, just working with people, referrals. Like, I don't even have a website set up at the moment, so trying to push and build a brand and build a website, and then trying to get that more activated. But just for now, Oran.O'Kelly.
Oran.O'Kelly
the best
on
space.
Instagram. And what have you got planned? Are you just working, or are you going to do Dakar 2026, 27?
So mega keen to go back. To be honest, there's definitely a bit of an itch there, and this might be the male ego coming in here. But I went to complete the last one. I'm really keen to go back and compete, go back and push for a much stronger competitive finish. But I understand, looking at what I prepared for and looking at a lot of my failings and a lot of my challenging now, I have an enormous amount of work to do. Not enough time to have done it, recovered, taken a bit of time off as well this year from the racing to go back at it hungry and keen for more. So I think there's going to be a push for 2026, but it's not really my main objective or main priority. If I am to go back, I want to go back like doing a summit of any mountain or any expedition. You got to take the learnings and the knowledge from the first one and put them into training and put them into practice and put them into preparation for the second one. I'm 100% sure if I went back this year, I'd struggle with the exact same stuff and probably more that I'd learn about or suffer with. So money in the bank, need to figure out what I need to put in preparation and then hopefully make a good run at it again.
That's awesome. I do also think that when you take time off, you build up, you do two things. You build up a bit of hunger and a bit of appetite for it again. But what you don't get is if you put 2 of those hard years back to back, somewhere around month 15 to 19, you're going to suffer burnout. That you don't really appreciate when you give yourself the time, how important it is to let yourself chill, and not your physical, but your mindset. Like, can I foresee myself doing this for another 12, 18 months?
Yeah.
That becomes much easier when you've been missing from it.
Yeah.
You kind of forget the lows, you forget the struggles, you try to pick out the peaks in your mind.
Yeah, hugely. With things like that, there's a massive sacrifice, like my personal relationship, bits of my career, opportunities in my career I turned down because I thought, no, like I need to focus on this and everything else. So that needs time to heal. I think if you're going to do anything intense like that, there needs to be a period of time where you recharge, mend, try and let some of the things that maybe suffered a little bit, but not too badly, heal and work back towards a more sustainable approach to performance long term, not just crash, burnout. Yeah,
exactly. Well, look, best of luck with it, and we'll maybe get you back in for a chat on how to do sports sponsorship and marketing and all that stuff. Cool. Cheers, 100%.
Bud. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you guys.